Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you for joining today's strategic session, the business case for skills-based hiring. This conversation is especially critical as organizations everywhere seek new strategies to cut costs, build resilient talent pipelines, and drive long-term growth. We are moving beyond traditional hiring models to explore the clear, measurable business case for a skills-first approach. We are honored to be joined by our partners, Opportunity at Work, the organization behind the Tear the Paper Ceiling campaign, which is leading the advocacy for skills-based hiring. You'll learn how to identify and engage untapped talent pools and leverage a skills-based strategy to cut costs and drive long-term business growth. My name is Brittany. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I am the Learning and Development Specialist here at CareerCircle, where skills go to work. I have black hair and a natural twist hairstyle, brown eyes, and I'm wearing a checkered black and white jacket and a smile that's signaling my excitement for today's topic. We're currently recording this webinar to ensure accessibility for all participants. If you'd like to enable closed captioning, click more in the bottom right of your screen, then select captions and show captions. Without further ado, y'all get your internet fingers and spirit hands together. I'd love to introduce our panelist, our fantastic guest today, Miss Natalia. Could you please provide a descriptive introduction and share a bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you, Brittany. That's such an energetic welcome. I really appreciate it. And it's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Natalia Lara. I have short black hair. I'm wearing a white top, and I also have a big smile on my face because this is a really exciting moment for us. So as I mentioned, or as Brittany mentioned, I work for Opportunity at Work. I'm currently the director of product design for STAR's inclusion mode in our platform partnerships team. My work is driven by my identity as a first-generation Central American immigrant. I'm also a sister and advocate for siblings with disabilities, and I'm a proud cat mom of Henry and Columa. And now, if it's okay, I'd love to turn it over to the audience and learn more about you all. So if you don't mind just sharing where you're from, I see Kimberly, you've already started. Please tell me, what city are you in? And if you also take a moment and share 1 to 2 skills that you've mastered throughout your career, I'd love to read that. Give you all a moment. All right. And if we have some shy folks in the room, that's okay. You're more than welcome to continue sharing as we continue. I'll talk a little bit about my skills that I've learned. For certainly public speaking was not something I learned in school. I've had to practice over many, many years. And also I'm very proud of my organizational skills and just, constantly trying to be as efficient as I can. So today we're here to talk about the paper ceiling, as Brittany shared. This is how you can learn to unlock the full potential of the American workforce. We've all heard of the glass ceiling, but the paper ceiling is a little different. It sets us up for skills-based hiring, which is, from our perspective at Opportunity at Work, a way to broaden talent pools. And so our goal today is simple. It's to move from a system of pedigree to a system of performance. And we want to change how we see talent so that skills, not just pedigrees, not just degrees, become the primary currency of our labor market. I want to kick us off with a video. So let me know if the sound is good.
Most hiring algorithms would scream me out.
Good.
Some bosses couldn't see me as a leader.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
I've been running code as long as I've been able to reach a keyboard.
This is what I do. It's second nature for me, coordinating 100 details at once.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
I sold them on my skills.
You gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
My magic is
Analytics and empathy. That's how I'm getting clients. You have to have the confidence in yourself to show up and defy the odds.
I'm more than who I am on paper.
I never got a college degree. And today, I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions. Stars are all around us. It's time for them to shine.
Great. So that's just a little promo spot of our campaign. You may have seen it, you may have not, but hopefully it was just as moving if you've seen it before. I know it is for me. So again, what is the paper ceiling? It's the invisible barrier that blocks the 50% of workers who don't have a bachelor's degree, and it blocks them from accessing high-wage jobs, even when they have the skills to do them. And this isn't a small niche. We're talking about 70 million Americans. We call them stars, workers skilled through alternative routes, rather than a traditional college degree. We also call this niche perennial talent from experienced workers who have built durable, transferable skills through years of real-world work, but remain screened out by those degree filters. Over the last 20 years, these workers were displaced from 7.5 million jobs they were qualified for simply because of degree bias. Specifically, at Opportunity at Work, we have researched that and found that in a span of 20 years, jobs that were able to be performed without a bachelor's degree requirement began to require them. And so employers who had, but instead, if employers had screened for skills, 7.4 million jobs would have been offering upward mobility for these workers. And that cost is staggering. A worker without a degree, a star, has to work for 30 years to reach the same starting salary that a college graduate would get on their first day out of school. Think about that, 30 years to earn the same amount as a first-year college degree graduate. So the paper ceiling isn't just a barrier for opportunity for skilled workers. It can also lead to hiring inefficiencies that has real tangible costs for your companies. In 2026, a Career Builder survey found that companies lose an average of $17,000 for every bad hire. And simply using a bachelor's degree as a proxy for quality can lead to bad hires as well. Career Builder's data shows that 36% of employers found that candidates who appear to have the right skills based on their resume actually underperformed on the job. And for stars, the millions of workers, this credential bias and automated degree filter has become the invisible barrier that's locking them out of economic opportunities. While the paper ceiling is the problem that we hope to solve, the solution is represented by stars who have the skills acquired through military service, community colleges, certificate programs, and most importantly, they learn through their on-the-job, real-world experience where they develop expertise and skills as they problem solve day to day. In total, stars represent over half of the adult working population, and they also reflect every demographic landscape. Every demographic segment across the American landscape, from urban city centers to rural communities. They also represent all stages of a person's career maturity. Early career stars, for instance, we like to call them forming stars. And then the middle segment, about 34 million stars, are called rising stars. This particular group is our main focus at Opportunity at Work because they already possess the skills needed for higher wage work, but remain stuck in low wage jobs. The final group that we like to call are the shining stars. These are the exemplary individuals who are already in higher wage work, leading organizations, and who have become, a model for where all stars can be. And we do hear a lot about a skills gap We've heard the talent gap, many different things around this, but we have a lot to say about this. First of all, our research shows that 34 million stars have the skills for higher wage work today, and we have so much more to learn about that. I want to demonstrate an example of what we mean here. We are representing two workers, a retail salesperson that earns $18 per hour, what we would call a forming star, and a wholesale sales representative who's earning more than $30 per hour, someone who's a little bit more mature in their career. When we map the skills of the first worker to the skills of the second one, the overlap is nearly 90%. They're already doing the work that could earn them higher wages. They just don't have the title or the opportunity. And for this specific example, our research has found that from 2017 to 2021, around 96,000 stars successfully made that exact career transition. And so it reflects what we call in our framework how a star can make these job mobility moves across the labor market, where they would start at an origin job, like the retail sales job, move into a gateway job, like the sales representative wholesale job that offers more wages, and ultimately set them up on the trajectory for even greater upward mobility, where they could land in a destination job, where they would have more leadership and, of course, even higher wages. And so this skills gap is not really a skills gap. It's a signal failure. What we say is the thing that limits them from being seen by recruiters and employers. So I want to take a moment here, give you all an opportunity to share any reflections. So I know I've just shared a lot. If you have anything that you'd like to drop in the chat, please feel free. Or otherwise, if you just take a moment and ask yourself, you don't have to share this, just what would happen if you can think of the most talented, hardworking person that you know, who does not have a bachelor's degree? Would that person be able to be hired at your company? All right. I see already that some reflections were shared by Beth in Hudson Valley, New York. She says that we need more companies and hiring managers to understand this concept. And yes, I would agree. All right. So let me tell you a little story. This is about me, and I want to help you understand this in a different way, because I don't just want to share stats. My personal journey as a star has also been reflected in many of the examples that I've shared so far. So to start, my journey began right after high school. Like millions of Americans, college felt financially out of reach for me. And so I enlisted in the Army Reserves, hoping that that would help pay for my college. But life happened and my plans were derailed. And unfortunately, I did have to pivot and I couldn't complete my military career. So I decided to take an entry-level role as a customer service call center representative for a global Fortune 100 enterprise. That call center job signified for me the start of my own career journey and even my own type of university where I could learn through hands-on experience, but also take advantage of the many learning resources that that organization offered. And so over the next decade, I didn't just work. I acquired a massive stack of competencies. I moved from the phones in the call center to the recruitment department, where I began as a recruiting coordinator and eventually a junior recruiter, and then eventually a recruiter, and so on, until I finally rose to become the associate director of recruitment for a regional nonprofit. And so I had already the domain experience, the leadership skills, the track record of over a decade. And then I hit the paper ceiling. When I moved to New York City, the biggest talent market in the world, suddenly my experience wasn't valuable or as valuable. I kept hearing as I was applying for jobs that, your background is so great. It's really too bad you don't have a degree because this role requires it. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, I had been doing that job for over 10 years, and they were telling me that I wasn't qualified for it. It was just heartbreaking. And so finally in 2000, somewhere around 2017, 2018, that paper ceiling forced me to pivot once again. I decided to go into a web development boot camp where I learned technical skills in web development. And so I added these skills to the grit and the determination that I already had. And so for the past 7 years, I was able to use those technical skills along with my additional experience into the job that I have today. And it's not just the job that I found here at Opportunity at Work. I've been where I've worn many different hats. I've launched customer success teams for SaaS products. I became a product manager where I've led engineering teams to build talent marketplaces for stars. And today, as the director of product design, I work with partners like CareerCircle to continue to build features and tools that can support stars mobility. So as you can see, it's both a personal passion of mine because of my own lived experiences, but also because it just makes sense. As a recruiter, I saw so many talented candidates who unfortunately weren't given the opportunity because they didn't have that degree. And so as arduous as that journey has been, with many existential crises and no's that I faced, I also had many triumphs, and it's that triumph that drives me to know that this is possible and it does work. And so we just need to, look beyond the degree to see the potential of everyone. So as you can see, this journey is not only personal, but the paper ceiling has also made me feel more visible, or the campaign itself. My story is just one of 70 million. And when we allow stars to pivot, when we are able to see them for what they do have and not what they don't, then we can start to change lives. And we can also invite them to, contribute to your goals and to the success of your companies. And then so that life-changing work that, can help stars is also a boost for your productivity at your organization. And because the world is changing, we know that by 2027, folks predict that the skill sets for jobs will be changed by at least 50%. And stars are some of the most agile learners that we know. They are used to pivoting and used to upskilling in real time. And so this is why we launched the Tear the Paper Ceiling campaign. It's a national movement to help employers like you make this transition through playbooks, tools, and a coalition of peers that you can learn from and with as we continue to accelerate this movement. So, like I said, we're not doing this alone. This campaign is backed by a coalition of some of the world's largest employers, companies like Google, IBM, and Walmart, CareerCircle, who have all recognized that their future growth depends on the ability to see past a diploma. And even governments moving in this direction. So far, more than 30 states have removed degree requirements for state jobs. Through legislation or executive orders, skills-based hiring is becoming the new national standard. And it's not just the smart thing to do, it's a massive win for their communities and for stars seeking stable, meaningful careers in public service. And so since launching the movement, we've continued to see steady momentum through the efforts of our STARS Insights Advisory Panel and research community at Opportunity at Work. We've been able to pool together the skills and expertise from folks in labor economics, workforce development, and the future of work in public, private, and academic sectors. And we have many of this research available to be accessed in our website, which we'll share later on today. But these insights highlight not just the barriers, but also the breakthroughs that many stars have achieved. And so we're really thankful for that. We've also been reaching hundreds and thousands of people through our national headlines and the ads that are running across TV, radio, and print. I know the first time I saw it on TV, I was excited. And I just couldn't believe that, all the work and the research that we've done is now reaching so many different people who can finally feel seen and valued. And so when we're or implementing skills-based practices. You can probably see that what we're aiming to do is to recognize the value of stars. And when they're valued and seen, they stay. This works. Retention rates are significantly higher because employees who are often most motivated to prove their worth are stars. Through a diverse ecosystem that also includes workforce boards, community colleges, and partners like CareerCircle, we are also working to ensure that when a candidate shows up with those skills, the employers, the applicant tracking systems are ready to receive them. And so here I'd like to just highlight for a few moments the ways that CareerCircle, our wonderful host today, is helping to tear the paper ceiling. Through their platform, employers can gain access to over 200,000 skilled candidates that come through more than 200 community organizations. Their platform also helps to translate military experience to civilian requirements, matching candidates based on proven competencies like certifications and on-the-job experience. And something that I'm personally very excited about, and you're hearing it here first, is an upcoming partnership between Opportunity Network and CareerCircle. They will be the first to integrate our skills mobility data to tag roles that are specifically optimized for stars, making it even easier than ever to connect candidate skills with actual opportunities. And so we are beginning to see signs of progress. The campaign, as I've mentioned, it is working. Since launching in 2022, we've regained nearly 800,000 jobs for stars, reversing 20 years of decline. So we've been able to arrest that, and we're beginning to see that it's beginning to creep back up. And so our mission doesn't end there. We actually, over the next 10 years, want to increase the number of jobs that are open to stars. We have a very lofty goal of 10 million higher wage work positions that stars can be considered for. And so collectively, we're working across sectors and also beginning to see how that's opening more jobs. Leaders who have begun to implement skills-based talent strategies have added over 1 million new jobs between the public and private sector. And so what they understand is that tearing the paper ceiling isn't just a moral imperative, it's also an economic one. And we've calculated that if we aligned 34 million rising stars with the roles they are already qualified for, then we would not only solve the talent shortage, but we could also add trillions of dollars back into the US GDP. And so now my challenge to you is this. If you could start with just one step today to start tearing the paper ceiling, here are a couple of ways that I can suggest. First, shifting the narrative of what you're looking for and how you're looking for talent. You can tell star stories to begin with. We'll be sharing a handout today that features the star story framework, and this is a way that you can help to uncover, this hidden talent pool to also reframe candidate narratives and inspire organizational change at your company. And by doing this, we hope that you can also begin to act as a catalyst to shift behaviors to help your organization move from hiring for pedigree to hiring for performance. One additional step you can take also is to start auditing your job descriptions. If you even take a look at one today, where you could see that a degree may not necessarily be required, but that you can have equivalent experience or specific skills that are just as valuable, then, with just 5 minutes, you can change everything for a candidate and also for your company. So we like to say that with every, job description, we're tearing down that paper ceiling. So it starts with just one step and maybe even just one job. All right, so this is where my presentation ends. We'll move into Q&A. I'd love to read any other reactions that folks are sharing, but before you go, I'd love it if you could just answer one prompt, one poll that'll show up on your screen. It's anonymous, but after today's session, What's the chances that you could audit at least just one job description to remove a non-essential degree requirement? Okay, we'll give you a few minutes. All right. Wow, I love this. So happy to see that 41% of you are ready to start today. Thank you for doing that immense amount of work to catalyze that change. And if you're taking this to your leadership already, I mean, that's just as meaningful to be that catalytic agent to advocate for this type of change. So kudos to you all, and thank you for answering the poll. All right, I'm going to turn it back to Brittany.
Awesome, 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 awesome job with that wonderful presentation. I am opening the floor for questions and answers for our brilliant guests on today. If you have any burning questions, please put them into the chat. We want to use this opportunity to really be able to help you with tangible resources and support you in any way to really be able to take what you've learned and actually implement it in the different areas that you all are working. And so in order to do that, you got to glean from the master, and that is none other than Natalia. And so I'm going to start with this, with the first question that we got from our wonderful audience. Question number one is, what recommendations would you give to a young candidate who lacks a university degree but holds technical certifications to ensure their application is taken seriously by recruiters who still prioritize formal degrees?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Sabrina. Thank you for sharing it. So the first thing that I think of as a former recruiter is, I don't just want to see where you've earned your skills, but I want to see what skills you actually have. And sometimes, just listing a diploma is not enough to show that. So I'd like to coach candidates to build a skills first resume. And what this does is it elevates, specifically what skills you've mastered, which technical as well as those durable skills with tangible examples of how those skills have in fact contributed to your company's success. So by coaching stars to use the STAR method of like situation, task, action, and results, using that as a way to translate what they've achieved on their resume is a great start. Another resource that I like to share, because everyone's at different levels of confidence. I mean, I know myself as a star, like imposter syndrome is probably the biggest barrier that I've had to overcome. We have resources and tools for free for stars on our Tear the Paper Ceiling campaign website. In fact, one of the tools is an AI-powered coach that we've co-developed with another partner by the name of Career Village that specifically, designed this tool for stars in mind. And so that is one way to also gain some, tailored advice on how you can take your experience as a star, translate it into a career with actionable steps on how you can actually include that in a resume. So the website for that is tearthepaperceiling.org/stars. And you can find that coach widget available there for any star that needs a little bit more of a personalized tool to support them.
And you said tear the paper ceiling.
.org.
And then .org/stars. And
yes.
Tell me that acronym one more time, because I love a good acronym. It helps me to remember. All
yes,
right.
Thank you. Yes. STARS is skill through alternative routes.
Oh, I love it. And you see my wonderful colleague in the chat. You see, just
yes,
supporting me in every way. I just love it. Thank you so much. All right. Next, we have, how can I determine essential and non-essential skills in my job postings?
That's a good question. We like to think about this as like, so as a recruiter, one of the ways in which I would coach hiring managers to think about what they truly needed is what skills does the star or the candidate need to start doing on day one?
Mm-hmm.
That's essential.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else that you think over time they can grow, they can learn either by shadowing or, taking self-directed learning courses,
Mm-hmm.
those are non-essential. So, what's it going to take for that person to succeed on day one? You can start to discern, what's a required or must-have skill versus a nice to have, which, would be
Mm-hmm.
great, but, doesn't necessarily need to use it on day one.
You see that love that you're getting from the audience? I saw that heart. All right. Convincing the hiring manager that someone is qualified would be easier if there was a way to demonstrate that they possess those skills. What are examples of ways to assess a candidate's skills?
Yes, so I love this question. I can think of several ways. I think the first is implementing, skills-based interviewing rubrics.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have a way to one, measure everyone equally, then you're able to, truly show like where a candidate shines by the way that they've responded or demonstrated, their ability to apply skills and contribute to a company's goals or success.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly, using those kinds of like behavior based interview questions, but then also using a common rubric for everyone to ensure there's equity in that process. Another way is to implement assessments. I know that this might be different based on your organization and what resources are available, but some of your applicant tracking systems already have tools embedded that maybe you just need to turn on, that can help to, evaluate a candidate's skills through like more formal assessments.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing is also, and this is becoming harder now because everyone uses AI and it makes their lives easier. But, in the past, we've been able to use work samples. We like to encourage, keeping work samples at a minimum. And, there's a debate over whether or not a candidate should spend time on a work sample because we recognize that their time is valuable and they shouldn't be producing work for free. But if they have a portfolio where they've already created work samples, like for instance, if it's writing, or a presentation deck that they've delivered, if they can show that, then a web developer's portfolio with like past projects that they've engineered, then these are other ways that you can also evaluate skills. But I think the first and foremost thing that I would recommend would be assessing that through the interview process and really being careful about how you're documenting that and,
Mm-hmm.
measuring equally against other candidates.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great nuggets there.
Mhm.
Next question. Many of my hiring managers are willing to loosen the grip of degree, but still want to put it on the job description. Do you have any data on how seeing a degree on the job description impacts a candidate without a degree decision on applying?
Well, we do know that largely, and I don't know the exact number, but a star will more likely self-disqualify from applying for a job if they see a degree requirement is there. So even if you didn't remove it and just added that additional language that I mentioned earlier, which is like or an equivalent of, and be specific about what skills or what industry, even what like former job titles are valuable, then, that would signal to the candidate that they would still be considered as a viable candidate. So we understand that, even in the public sector, we come across this where like it's not always easy to just drop that degree requirement, but just to add on to that. Again, because all it does is it expands your talent pipeline. It doesn't disqualify anyone to
Mhm.
remove a degree requirement. It just broadens the pool. And so by signaling that first and foremost in your job description, um, Or also implementing, marketing techniques for your company that sends a
Mm,
signal to candidates who are, considering joining your organization. If there are other ways that you can present that you are a star-friendly employer, then that will, increase the chances that they'll still apply. But yeah, I don't have exact numbers, but it's very similar to the study that, we've probably all heard of where like, just by omitting your name from an application, you're more likely to have your resume reviewed. Like, we tend to self-select ourselves out of things if, we think that there might be some like bias in the process.
mhm,
So
mhm,
reversing
mhm.
that behavior is really important to start from the employer side.
I love that advice that you gave. And I see someone, Eliza in the chat is aligning with my views on this because we recognize that there are certain employers that are taking baby steps. Everyone isn't in the same journey. Everyone is not in the same spot when it comes down to where they are in terms of embracing this new direction. And so what you've just mentioned, I believe, is moderate. It's a great compromise so that for those individuals that have a lot of weight with that degree, but also want to start to incorporate some of these things, it gives them that compromise where they can hold on to this while also embracing this. So I love that advice. I love that advice. Excellent. Next question. The questions are rolling in. Y'all, we got 23 minutes of greatness still ahead of us. And so if you have some additional questions, put them in the chat. We want to hear from you. The next question that we have is, can you tell us more about gateway, origin, and destination jobs and how we may be able to determine those in our organizations?
Yeah, so it's a little harder to determine on your own because this is a proprietary framework that we use. And so what we've done at Opportunity at Work is we've mapped out all of the labor market transitions that have occurred over the last 20 years. And so we can see across the entire landscape of adult workers where they've moved across the labor market, how long it's taken them to move across the labor market, and how much wage gain have they achieved through those transitions. And so we call that the skills mobility data model. And one way in which we use that, for instance, is we work with partners like CareerCircle to help analyze of all the jobs that you have posted, on the platform today, how many of those jobs, or like what percentage of those jobs fall under the category of like origin, gateway, or destination. And it's based on stars inclusion number. So like how many stars are in that role, how many stars, meaning like how many workers without a degree are there. Of course, the higher wage roles, we tend to see less stars because the degree attainment is much more required. And so this framework helps us to, consider what jobs might be possible for an employer to immediately open up to stars, because we can see historically what's been possible already. So if you want to learn more about that, feel free to email me. I didn't put that in, I don't know if I put up the slide, but I can drop my email in the chat. Also, if you go to our website, you can learn a little bit more about, our organization's work. And if you join the Paper Ceiling Coalition as well, by going to our Tear the Paper Ceiling website, we also have toolkits for employers specifically to start taking these steps. And so you don't need to be an expert on this job transition framework. But if you are curious and you want to learn more, there are definitely ways that you can reach out to myself or someone on my team, and we are happy to help you.
Absolutely.
Dropped my
Thank
email
you.
in there.
Oh, see, look at there. Connection and networking. I love it. Okay, the next question that I have, how does a shift to skill-based hiring impact our existing employees? This is a good question. Well, we need to restructure our internal training and talent development programs to focus on skill building over degree attainment to ensure fair progression for our current workforce.
Yeah, this is a good question. And we often hear this one because, if you have a degree and you spent all this money and all this time getting it Like, you might think that this movement is about excluding, that type of candidates. And that's not, in fact, true, right? This is actually doubling down on a different way of considering talent. And so a shift to skills-based hiring is a win for everyone. It creates a skills-first mindset. And for an organization that's shifting to these practices, it also helps to establish a culture of skills first mobility. And so if you're a current employee who, got potentially already a star, what this could mean is that you now have the ability to feel confident that your skills are not going to be overlooked for promotions, or that you're not going to be blocked for, upward mobility because of degree requirements, even for those internal roles. And so, yes, this pivot will require some change management. You need strong change agents or champions that, can help to narrate why this change is important. But, beginning to do this just broadens up, what a candidate could serve. If you're an employee that has gained, upskilling, so if you've earned new certificates, if you've gone back to school, or, continue to just, improve your learning journey, then that can be part of the competencies that, your employer considers. So I would say, like, thinking of mapping skills that your workforce has to the jobs that are being opened, whether it's for external or internal candidates, will help to improve that transparency, and also signal to employees that, you don't have to wait 30 years to earn higher wages, that, by mapping what you already have achieved, what skills you have, to the job descriptions that are being posted, then, you're just as a viable candidate as anyone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next question is, what specific training or metrics are necessary to ensure our hiring managers who are currently comfortable with a degree as a safety net are truly equipped to interview, evaluate, and mentor stars effectively?
Okay, that's a good one too. So the first thing I'd say is to help managers move away from the degree safety net. You can again replace those proxies with verification tools. So as I mentioned before, like a behavioral or performance-based interview practice, implementing rubrics is one, great start. Training hiring managers or even recruiters on to ask, different questions. So instead of going from like, where did you go to school? You can ask, tell me how you solved, this problem with using this skill. For metrics also, you can start to measure the success of your skills-based talent strategies to track diversity at the top of the funnel. So for those, candidates that are applying and haven't even made it to the interview step, like how many are actually applying who are stars? And so you can, measure the educational attainment so that you can start to see like, what is your rate of stars inclusion, and at what point throughout the hiring life cycle are they dropping off? And that way, if your organization is trying to meet certain goals around stars inclusion, you can start to measure and identify where there are bottlenecks or where there are drop-offs, so that you can start to implement interventions. And so ultimately, the goal would be, in the long run, you start to measure how many offers are being extended and how many offers are being accepted by stars in comparison to degreed workers. And again, you can start to, see what trends are working and what's not working in terms of implementing, skills-based hiring practices. The last thing I'll share is also another way to help managers immediately is to use the handout that I think we dropped it in the chat, the STAR Story Framework. Yes, I see the link there. This is, again, another way to help managers see how someone's experience or skills translates into the skills that are going to be needed for that job. So, it's helping them to also see how, like, stars have higher levels often of those durable skills like grit and adaptability and agility or perseverance, like the inherent skills that are harder to teach, but create the foundation and the potential for stars to learn the technical skills that would be needed for the job. So these are just some of the ways that, again, you can put in tangible, like, measurement tools, both for candidate interviews, but as well as for your own organization's performance towards skills-based hiring. But then also tools that, you can start to use immediately as you're talking to candidates to evaluate them.
I love that nod to Brene Brown that you just did. Grit. Absolutely, absolutely. What are the best long-term KPIs for measuring the success of a skills-based hiring strategy? And how do we measure the impact of stars on innovation, team performance, and cultural change over a 3 to 5 year period?
Yeah, those are all great questions. And, it starts by understanding like what success means. What are those lofty goals that you want to strive for as an organization to begin that shift? And knowing that you're not going to meet every mark immediately. But if you align on what success is and what it isn't first, then, it helps to start defining your measurement plan towards that. So as I mentioned before, metrics such as like top of the funnel diversity by educational attainment, interview to offer ratios for stars versus degree holders, but also measuring success by mobility and performance over time. So for instance, if you can track your star hires from when they started and over the course of like 3 to 5 years, how often were they promoted? How often did they receive pay raises? And how does that compare to degreed workers? And that's another way to understand or get a pulse on like how well you are doing towards those stars inclusion goals. We often, also because stars are hired for specific skills, and as I mentioned, they often hit the ground running. Are there other barriers that are standing in the way from them achieving promotional degrees, even though they're performing at a high level? That's when you start to get into like what cultural shifts need to be made. What mindsets need to shift, and so like what training might be implemented for your teams to support skills-based hiring. The other thing is I shared a benchmark of what a typical like pay difference is for a star versus a a degreed worker. It's roughly 30,000 on an annual basis. Look at your job leveling, like your pay leveling. If you have two people performing the same role and one is making significantly more than the other, then like that signals a huge disparity in, practices, as well as, mindsets, like what led to that pay decision. And we understand there are budget constraints that change over time, but even just knowing, like again, getting a pulse, can help to start, chart your path towards improvement over 3 to 5 years, and then, putting those measurements in place so that you're able to see that.
Oh, that was so good. That was so good. We have one final question for you. Okay. And that is, if you could leave the audience with one final thought or action item that they can implement today, what piece of advice would you provide?
Well, I think I've shared more than one, but I think, again, think about a star that personally. We all do. There's 70 million of them. So you're bound to have, at least one star in your life. Think about what their struggles have been in their career progression, what challenges they've had to face, and, use your power and your responsibility and your role to prevent that from happening to someone else. This is a journey. We got to start somewhere. So regardless of whether you can, change the entire system at your organization or just start by changing your own mindsets or your own behaviors today, just, bring it back to what matters, which is, these are people with skills and experience that are valuable. And, how might you help them along the way? If you could just do one thing, what could that be? I think that's a very personal answer. But I would say start by thinking of those individuals, those stars that or even the stories that you heard today, whether it's mine or Dabrina, who's the star featured in our handout today. That's another story that you can learn from.
Natalia, thank you so much for being so personable, for being so transparent, for telling your story and why this is something that you're championing and advocating for. We want to thank you all, the audience, for joining the business case for skills-based hiring. And I want to especially notate the fact that what you've given us today are nuggets that we can utilize to be strategic. Your expertise have not gone unnoticed, and we thank you so much for the insight that you have provided. As we wrap up, we have a couple of quick asks for the audience. First, we want you to please take a few minutes to complete our post-webinar survey, which will be included in the follow-up email alongside the recording. I know a number of you all have asked about the recording that will be provided to you post-event. Your feedback helps us to continue to improve and bring you meaningful conversations like the one on today. Also, we want you to register for our next employer webinar that's going to be April the 23rd, and it's 5 reasons employers overlook military talent and how to fix it. Hear from companies like Cisco and Fiserv as they share their most successful talent acquisition strategies for integrating military talent and boosting team performance. We want to thank you all again for being here and for committing to building smarter, more resilient talent pipelines. Take care, and we look forward to staying connected with you all. Until next time. Bye-bye.
I just want to thank you, Brittany. You are amazing. Before we go, you deserve your flowers too. And thank you to the entire Career Circle team. It's been great. And for providing the space for us to share. So I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon, and thank you all for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.